At 10 with the BBC News, I'm Mark Summers. 2 people have died after becoming trapped in their car in a flooded road in Liverpool. Merseyside police say officers were called to Mossley Hill just after 9 p.m. yesterday. It followed reports a man and a woman were trapped in a black Mercedes that was submerged in water under a bridge. Police in Lancashire are appealing for witnesses after a brick was thrown from a bridge at the Aston Villa team bus. It happened as it was driving along the M65 near Burnley, following the visitors' 3-1 win over the Clarets earlier today. Officers say the brick hit the windscreen and caused some damage. Nobody was injured. Senior Conservative MPs have criticised the former Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries following her resignation from her Mid-Bedfordshire seat. She launched a scathing attack on the Prime Minister, telling him history will not judge you very kindly. The Veterans Affairs Minister, Johnny Mercer, has dismissed those comments, saying people are keen to move on from the Boris Johnson government. But Lucy Fisher, the Whitehall editor for the Financial Times, says some of what Ms Dorries said in her letter to the PM reflects what's happening across the country.
The claim that he's presiding over a zombie parliament. Many Tory MPs, particularly those in slim marginals, have spent much more time away from Westminster, already sort of stepping up the general election campaign.
The Metropolitan Police Federation says their members will be angry and concerned after one of Scotland Yard's IT contractors suffered a suspected data breach. The force says someone gained unauthorised access to a system holding names, ranks, photos and pay details of officers and staff. Rachel Percival is a cybersecurity consultant.
Clearly there's been weaknesses and vulnerabilities in the system, so it's all good well protecting the front end, but it's got to be the back end as well, the ones who are behind the scenes, if you like, in this instance an IT company.
Russian investigators say DNA analysis has confirmed the leader of the Wagner mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin, was one of 10 people who died in a plane crash on Wednesday. The cause of the crash, 2 months after the group staged a mutiny, remains unclear. A National Trust mining site in Cornwall's looking for more volunteers to help tourists. Site manager JJ James says visitors to East Pool Mine prefer talking to people.
We need people to welcome our visitors. Our tours here at East Pool Mine are all person-led, and we've found that visitors really enjoy that far more than free flow, where they were just standing wondering what it was they were looking at.
And finally, a speed eater in a qualifying event in Sussex for competitive hot dog consumption has polished off 34 of them in 10 minutes. It means Max Stanford secured a seat in New York at the Major League Eating World Championships in July next year. Some of Mr. Stanford's previous achievements reportedly include eating 141 biscuits in 5 minutes and 50 cream eggs in less than half an hour. You're up to date, it's 3 minutes past 10.
We are here, you are there, with our land back.
The world is a crazy place, is it not, when we have competitive disgust. Yuck. Anyway, good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
My name is Allan Beswick. This is the Sunday night version of the late night phone-in, and you are more than welcome to join us. Just pick up your phone and have your say. Talk about absolutely anything. We don't mind. We have very little shame, and that's our best bit. The number, by the way, is 0800 218 2255. I would be glad to hear from you, because we're a bit like that. Whatever you might think of Nadine Dorries, as you've just heard, boy, can she write a backstabbing resignation letter? What a way to go. At the risk of being accused of sexism, her missive gave voice to that expression about a woman scorned, did it not? And listen to this. During a theatre performance recently in London, some people were being disruptive. There seems to be a fashion for that these days. I'm not sure why, but there you are. So what do you do when people are being disrupted in a theatre? Well, what this theatre did was call the cops. And 4 of them turned up and escorted the unruly out of the auditorium. 4 coppers. There is an acute shortage of coppers, but 4 can go and shift out noisy customers in a theatre. Meanwhile, elsewhere, people were being mugged, burgled, assaulted. No cops were available. Go figure. In the latest search for the Loch Ness Monster, strange and unexplained underwater sounds have been heard. The team are very, very excited. Why? Because they may be the first in the world to discover a dinosaur fart. And as the dust settles on the theft of 2,000... Well, the dust didn't settle, did it, really? They were moving too fast. Anyway, 2,000 items from the British Museum. We hear that some of the loot has been on sale on eBay for as little as £40. The exhibits on sale on eBay for £40. What do you get if you go to the museum shop for your £40? I'll tell you get a pencil, a rubber, a picture postcard and a look at a polo shirt. The Prime Minister has granted £500,000 to install 100 chessboards in public places. A bit like the ones in European countries. You know, they have them in the parks and things. Central Park in New York, I watched some old codgers there playing chess. It was fascinating. The coffee shops in Turkey, the coffee's crap. Turkish coffee's horrible. But the coffee shops in Turkey, they have chessboards and people play. And so the Prime Minister has granted £500,000 to install 100 chessboards in public places. Meanwhile, hundreds of schools can't afford books or chessboards for that matter. Chess, what a game.
King, queen and rook, bishop, pawn and knight on a checkered battle board. The black army faced the white. Each chess piece has to move in its own special way. To capture the enemy king is the goal of the game. Watch out for your king, mate. Watch out for your king. Pawns are foot soldiers in the army. They move 2 steps forward to begin. 1 step forward in each turn, and diagonally to capture a piece. Forward, backwards, and sideways. In an unoccupied space moves a rook. He can defend the king by switching places with him in a castling move. Watch out for your king, mate. Watch out for your king. The bishop moves diagonally on the same color square. They begin. The knights can jump over pieces in the shape of an L. In each turn, the king moves a square. Forward, back, diagonally or across. While the queen has the power to move in any direction she wants. Watch out for your king, mate. Watch out for your king. If you corner the enemy king, a check is what you make. It's a checkmate if the king cannot escape. Watch out for your king, mate. Watch out for your king.
So now you know how to play chess. That is a fabulous, fabulous record. Oh, dear, dear. Well, maybe it's just me then. All right, I understand that. But there you go. So the instructions on chess. They didn't mention en passant, which was a bit, disappointing. Because I played chess. Well, not anymore, but I did at school. I wasn't very good. Partly because I had a bit of trouble with a teacher. He was my French teacher. He wasn't French. And his name was Mr. Hart. which is fine. It's a nice name. He drove quite a nice car, I seem to remember. Anyway, Mr. Hart had the misfortune of becoming a teacher, despite the fact that his teachers called him Alfred. So we kids, of course, all called him Al Fart. And I called it him to his face and got thrown out of French, sorry. and wasn't welcome at the chess club either. Anyway, there you go. That's life as a child. It just gets in the way of being happy. 0800 218 2255. That's the number if you wish to join us. We're here till 1 o'clock in the morning, and after that we're not back till Saturday. So there you go. It's up to you. So let's begin. 0800 218 2255. How do Sean?
Good evening, Alan. How you doing?
Awfully well, thank you.
So I want to talk about the police force. So I want to know, how do I get into the police force? Because it can be a very scary place, because like if you get attacked by gangs and people, and the police get attacked all the time because people think they can't do the job properly and they get away with it. But I want to be in the police force.
Oh, apply. That seems like the easiest thing. So you won't get in without applying.
And then I need the gear to go with it. So I need the outfit, the handcuffs, the shoes, and pepper spray.
They provide all that.
Oh, they provide all that. All right. Okay. Oh, did you see the athletics tonight?
No.
You didn't see the athletics? All right. In Budapest?
No.
All right. Well, the police are very serious in doing the job, aren't they? Because they protect people when they have to.
Well, the police force per se has that responsibility, yes.
Well, they can't protect everyone, because if someone makes a false call to the house and nothing's wrong, then the wasted police how you get arrested for that, because they could be out somewhere else helping someone else, but then you're making a false call saying I'm getting a taxi, not really. So then you get arrested for that because it's wrong.
Well, you could get arrested for it, yes.
So just don't do it, and you won't get arrested, will you? Because it's naughty.
Well, you won't get arrested for that if you don't do it, but if you do something else, you may get arrested for the something else.
All right. You've never been arrested, have you?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
I've been arrested. I've been arrested by the military police when I was in the army. Well, that's a different story altogether.
All right.
No,
all right.
That was for not saluting someone I should have saluted.
That's pathetic. That is, because like they need to man up, then, don't they?
They do what? Sorry.
They need to man up and let you salute who you want to salute.
They need to man up. I don't really know what you mean.
Like, if you want to salute someone, you can salute them. You shouldn't get arrested for it.
Well, in the forces, there are very strict rules about who you do and do not salute. And if you don't salute a serving officer, particularly one in uniform, you can be in trouble.
Yeah. Like the Queen and the King, you salute them.
Yes, you do.
But you can't salute her anymore because she's dead.
Well, the King's not.
The King's not, so you can salute him, but he has got very big ears.
Yeah. Well, you can still salute him. His ears don't get in the way of saluting.
No, they don't.
Any more than your stupidity doesn't get in the way of you being on the radio.
Hello, yeah. Well, good talk to you.
Do have a good night. And you. 0800 218 2255. If you wish to join us, you may. Yeah, I mean, there was a reason. It wasn't just random naughtiness. Well, first of all, he was only a second lieutenant. They don't count as officers anyway. They're just rookies. They've only been in 10 minutes. And it was it was in the naffy. And first of all, I didn't notice him. He said, soldier. Oh, people say that all the time. And anyway, I turned round and he said, you didn't salute me. And I said, well, I didn't see you, sir. And he said, well, you didn't salute me. And I said, well, I didn't see you, sir. He said, you're being insolent. I said, well, I can only salute what I see, and I never saw you. You're lying. So that kind of got complicated, because he said, salute me now, but I said, no, not really. I've got no respect for you after what you just said. I was never going to win, but I wasn't going to give in either. So I got arrested, but not by the MPs, but by the regimental police. They look after the camp, and they said, come with us. They didn't say, you are arrested. Come with me, you are under arrest. They just said, come with us. And there's two of them, so I went. But I still didn't salute him before I went. Any road, and just dumb insolence, stupidity, I've had my share. 0800 218 2255, here to 1 o'clock, unless an officer comes and I don't salute him, in which case I'll be taken away and get a little bit of striped sunlight, as he used to call it. Striped sunlight, you ever heard that expression? It's because when you're in jail, the sun comes through the window, but the window's got bars, so you end up with striped sunlight. I know, it's stupid, isn't it? But that's what they used to say. 0800 218 2255. These are the cars. This is slow, but interesting for the first half, and then you think, I hope this ends soon. It's a bit like risotto. You know, it's very nice when you start, but by the time you get to... But basically you're saying, do you want a lift? That's it. Why do you just want a lift? No, my granddad's taking me off. You all right? Yeah. My sister used to go to the dance. They weren't called discos in those days, and they had a proper band on at Orford Hall. It was a church hall. She wasn't a Protestant, but it was a Protestant church hall. But she managed to go, and she used to go there and have a bit of a jig, a dance, and all that. And then if a bloke chatted her up, a lad chatted her up, he'd say, can I walk you home? And she said, no, my uncle's walking me home. And our uncle was only 2 years older than her. Yeah, my granddad was quite fit. How do Paul?
I hope, Alan. I just wanted to talk about, last week with Parkinson passing away.
Yeah.
Michael Parkinson, yeah. Well, I was just talking to my daughters, like, the other day about, the first time I saw it and everything, I had to, when I was young, like, I was allowed to watch Match at Day with Jimmy Hill if I kept quiet all the way through Parkinson. Now, it went on for about 55 minutes, and I thought, oh God, I'm not going to make this, but I actually learned quite a lot, because then I started to really enjoy it, because some of the people he had on were really, really interesting people. So, just to widen that out a bit, and I was saying, oh yeah, that, I said there were better telly on, because the previous night I'd looked to see what were on telly, and I'd been through about 50-odd channels, and it was rubbish. And I said, when we had 3 channels, BBC One, BBC Two, and Granada, and I said, BBC had the best programmes. Saturday night, we used to have a variety show on. I'm only going back to the 70s. You know, there used to be, Z cars on. They were good programmes. I used to love Wicker's World in Action. You know, these current affairs, what were good, what they don't have now. But last night I watched it, and a lot of these quiz shows they're all about gambling, aren't they? Risk, chase the banker, and risk this and stuff like that. And I was telling my daughters like how much better it was. Late 60s through 70s. And I just thought, I'm sure there's other people must feel the same as well, you know. I wonder what you thought, Alan.
Well, I think you're right in that there will be other people who hold the same view as you, and they'll be more or less the same age as you, because everybody believes that it was best in their day. And the kids of today who are watching the 96,000 channels or whatever the hell it is and picking and choosing, they will pick the programmes that they like the best. And then when they're, 30 years down the road, 40 years down the road, they'll be saying to their kids, yeah, we had better telly, in our day. And we only had 100 channels, but you could still find something good every night. It's just nostalgia, isn't it? Looking back, what you forget when you look back is all the crap you had to watch. The frog kissing argument. You have to kiss a lot of frogs to find your handsome prince.
I remember that bloke, Dave Allen. Do you remember that? He used to laugh at his own religion, Catholic, and there weren't many people did that.
No, he was very funny.
Very, very funny. But I think when my daughter start reminiscing with her kids, they might be talking about bloody being in jungle, celebrity this, celebrity chef goes here.
Well, yes, but they won't be sitting there saying, do you know what, when I was a kid, when I was young, all I could watch was shows about the jungle. They won't be saying that. They'll be saying, we used to have this programme where celebrities were in the jungle. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
Different. Each generation has its, if you like, its special programmes. Even in your day, and my day, there was an awful lot of crap on the telly. We remember the Parkinsons, we remember all those other programmes, but most of what was on was crap.
Well, I remember
just
when
like
Match Day used to go off, it used to be at National... They used to BBC say, this transmission is now coming to a close. And they put the band on playing, the national anthem and that,
Yeah, they did.
I think that's why everyone was in.
But it's now 24 hours a day. They used to play the national anthem at the end of the film in the cinema.
Yeah.
And people stood
the
there.
Clubs, didn't they?
I didn't go in many clubs, so I don't know, but people would stand there in the cinema whilst the national anthem was played. People would stand to attention because that was what you did. They don't play it anymore, and if they did, no one would hear it. They're all out.
Yeah, when I said in clubs, I meant, like the working men's clubs of this late 60s and throughout the 70s. There was an expectation that at the end of the night, if you didn't stand up, you could not get in the week after, you know what I mean?
Well, indeed. Working men's clubs never allowed me in on account of I've never done a day's work in my life. But, Paul, it's been good to talk to you, mate. Have a good night. How do, Ed?
I do. They played the national anthem, Alan, in Jordan when I was working there as recently as 1995. And they didn't
presumably the Jordan national anthem. Which national anthem was it?
It was the Jordanian national anthem, yeah. But there you go. And with regards to Parkinson and programmes back in the 70s or 80s, there did seem to be a lot more variety on a day-to-day basis there. You get more or less daily clones of programmes now. I was looking at the Radio Times listings for 1970 after your programme yesterday to try and work out when we got a colour telly. And it must have been round about September, October 1975, because I think it was Starsky and Hutch and Kojak were on then. Do you remember them?
Yeah. Who Loves You, Baby?
And we could only get, before that, BBC and ITV. We couldn't even get BBC Two in those days because we lived on the wrong side of the hill, and Winter Hill's signal didn't actually get over the hill going towards... I lived in Mottram then, Mottram in Longdendale, and before they put the Glossop transmitter there in 74, I think it was, because my dad put the electricity into that, before we got that, we could only get BBC One from Leeds and ITV very grainy picture from Winter Hill. We couldn't get anything else because BBC Two was on UHF. I think somebody mentioned that the other day on your programme. And we only had a VHF set, and then we upgraded from that to a colour telly, and then we got everything. We could get Midlands telly, we could get HTV Wales, and we could, I think it was ATV in those days in the Midlands, and then it became Central in 82, I think. So you could get, we went from getting 2 rubbishy channels. Oh, well, I think BBC was okay, but we went from 2 channels to like 5. So, yeah, brilliant. Anyway, that's what I'm ringing about. I'm ringing about the energy companies. They just put up the standing charge, although they're about to put up the standing charge, but they're bringing the tariffs down. But that means you're going to have to pay something like 308 quid before you even switch a switch or turn the gas on, which is a lot of money compared to what it was about 3 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
And where do you expect people to get that from? It's I don't understand.
Well, I don't suppose the energy companies care where you get it from.
No,
really.
Sure they do.
I mean,
they're making in their millions of dollars or pounds.
Well, so they don't care. They're just selling stuff, and they know you're going to have it, so they'll put their prices as high as they can get away with.
Are we better off having had these? This competition, because we're back almost to square one, because most of the companies are charging exactly the same as each other now, aren't they?
They are for the time being, yes.
So, and the reason, well, also the government are actually charged, if you do swap companies now, the company you go, say you with company A and you go to company B has to pay company A some money for you moving from them. So how is that going to, introduce competition?
Well,
because
what they pay isn't a fee, as I understand it. The amount they pay is the amount that you owe at that moment on your bill. So they will then bill you.
No, it's more than just that, Alan. They have to pay, by the law, they have to pay that company for you moving to them. Well, where's that in the way of competition? Because it means it's costing them even more to get you to move over to them. So they can't give you as good a deal if they have to pay the company you've been with a stockload of money. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
I have a bit of trouble with all this, because the only way we will ever have competition truly is if we deregulate completely, but allow anybody to supply your electricity. Now, the trouble with that was that companies bought their electricity in advance at a given price and then sold it to us at a promised price, which they had to maintain because it was contractual. And then the price of the electricity to them rocketed, and they could no longer afford it, and they went bust.
And of course, if the government then capped that rate, they can't put the price up to try and get a bit more money back, and then 60 went bust. So that's because they couldn't afford to, as you say, give that energy to everyone at that price, could they?
No. It used to be. It isn't anymore. It used to be if your company went bust, other companies were required eventually to take over your business, but at the price of the contract.
Exactly.
So,
but not now.
But that's not the case anymore. No.
Absolutely. So we're no better off than we were when we were with Norweb and the old companies from before all this privatisation started, aren't we?
It's impossible to know, isn't it? It's impossible to know. We don't know where we would be.
Well, at the moment, we're paying exactly the same price if we're on the standard variable tariff within pence. So, like you say, it might change in the future, and that's what the money-saving expert said, but I don't think it will, really. But that's just my prediction, but it just seems we're in a really awful situation. And did you know that 6% of our standing charge goes for the companies that have gone bust to pay for all that?
I presume so, yes. Somebody's got to pay for it, and who else is going to pay for it if it ain't mugsucker you and I?
To have those companies, the government, and now we're paying 6% and they're getting 5% VAT on the money extra that we're paying.
What you're forgetting, Ed, is this is just pretend. It's pretend privatisation. It is privatisation, but it's basically flogging a monopoly to rich foreigners.
I agree. And most of the energy companies in this country now aren't British, of course, are they? EDF are French, E.ON are German.
Hence, rich foreigners. There's a clue in what I said.
No, I agree. I agree entirely.
Excellent. Well, let's stop why we agree. How do Albert?
Hello, Alan. Ooh, blimey. It's a long time since I heard you.
Right.
You're still there. I thought you'd gone
I
home.
am still here.
Yeah.
No, I am still here. I'm also at home.
Eh?
I'm also at home, but do carry on.
Yeah, well, you're not going to letter like this for a long while. So this letter was addressed to my mum. Now, here we go. From Wing Commander...
I won't get a letter addressed to your mum, ever.
No. This was addressed to my mum during the end of war, nearly.
Right.
Right, well, I'm going to read it now. Right, from Wing Commander, F.S. Powley, Distinguished Flying Cross, Air Force Cross, Royal Air Force Station, Scampton, Lincoln.
No, don't give me your address, just read the letter, because otherwise we might be here a long time.
1945. Right, this is the letter. Dear Mrs. Simpson, may I be permitted to express my own and the squadron's sincere sympathy with you and the sad news concerning your husband, Sergeant Talbot Simpson. He was flying as a rear gunner of a Lancaster which took off on the night of 22nd of January to take part in an attack on Duisburg. But unhappily, we've had no further news of the aircraft or its crew since they left base. As you probably know, many Lord boys who are reporting missing are eventually found to be prisoners of war. And we all sincerely hope that this may be the case. But in saying this, I do not wish to raise your hopes unduly. In spite of the facts have been collected and we forward to Royal Air Force Central Depository where they be kept until further news is received. Over a period of at least 6 months they will be forwarded to you and you will get big headed on. Your husband was one of my most keen and experienced gunners. I had every confidence in his courage and ability. He was a very popular member of the squadron and he was sadly missed by us all. Signed, Wing Commander F.S. Powley, sent to Mrs. Simpson, 10 p.m. Street, Preston, Lancaster.
Okay.
You there?
I am, yes.
Man, did you understand it?
Yeah, I did understand it, yes.
You'll not get a letter like this in a long while.
Well, I won't, on account of... I mean, many people, many wives, widows, did get such letters.
Oh, yeah.
Because an awful lot of people died in the war.
Yeah.
So whilst
well over 55,000.
Whilst it's something for you and your family to treasure, it's not. It's not unique in the wider vision of things. In that there will be many other children who have letters similar to that were sent to their mother when their father died.
Yeah, it's terrible, though, isn't it? I mean, look at you saying that lassie just walked in.
When you say it's terrible, what is it that you're saying is terrible?
Well, war's terrible.
All right. No, I was just making sure. Yes, it is. War is absolutely ghastly. It's horrendous.
It's terrible. Yeah. Now, this is what happened with my dad's squadron. Well, my dad got killed after the attack on Duisburg. There were 286 Lancasters went up that night and escorted by 16 Mosquito fighter bombers. Now, do you remember Richard Dimbleby?
Not off the top of my head, no.
You know, remember coronation in 1953.
I was only 5, so...
Well, on an aircraft from my dad's squadron, and he took off, hang on, let's get this straight. He took off from RAF Scampton and we're flying over Germany. Now, on that mission, there was Richard Dimbleby, there was a big shot down to Button through doorway on Lancaster. He got on the fuselage, he put all his recording equipment down, he recorded a bombing attack over Germany. It was broadcast when they landed. It was broadcast next day on BBC Home Service.
I didn't catch that you said Richard Dimbleby. I do remember him, yes.
Yeah, well, he was a big chap. Do you remember? Oh, it's only 5 at Coronation.
I don't know what you mean.
No, only 5 years old at Coronation.
I was, yes.
I was 8.
Right.
Now, Alan. Alan, let's tell you a funny story. Well, I'm an adventurous lad. Listen to this, Alan. Well, I'm an adventurous lad. Well, I climbed up a hill in Forest of Bowland, and I wanted some ferns. So I bent down, and I'm pulling in ferns. Couldn't get them out, no trouble. I straightened up, and I looked up, and there were 2 big red eyes looking at me, and it lowered its horns up by the head. So I walked slowly, I thought something screwed. I walked slowly to the pavement, and it came down inch by inch. I was lost damn territory, so it was. But my mum said, Morris was just that car on. That rapidly got me, and I've had it.
Okay, well, Albert, lovely to hear from you. Thank you very much indeed. Do have a good night, and thank you for sharing your mum's letter with us. 0800 218 2255. How do, Margaret?
Hello, how do? You know those letters? Were they... did he say it was a wing commander wrote it?
I think he did, yes.
Were they written personally by the wing commander, or was it a sort of standard...
I think some were, some weren't, I guess.
Yeah.
Particularly if... Well, the RAF bomber people were very, very close. And by that I mean, they were close-knit teams.
Yeah.
And so that might have been the case in every case.
Yeah.
But not always. I mean, in some of the great big battles that took place, it would be difficult for the commanders to do so because they were still fighting and still on the ground and still heading out in the direction of Germany, hopefully. So some will have been pro formo. Certainly, the government used to send out telegrams, and I'm told, I don't know, I wasn't there, but I'm told that the telegram had a sort of black border on it. So when you got it, before you opened it, you knew what it was. Well, quite, yeah. And so that would be straightforward information. Well, it's kind.
Yeah, it's
it does sound.
I know. I was a bit hasty there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that sort of, you get it, and you can now.
Yeah.
You've got an inkling, and.
Yeah, yeah. It's not such a shock. It's like, would you care to sit down? I've got some news. So that kind of thing, I imagine. Yeah.
But it also spoke to the post office and said, look, don't just chuck this through the mat. So it gave a message to those who deliver it. So and there was a lot of it, obviously.
Yeah. Oh dear, yeah. Anyway, I didn't call about that. I was just interested. It just took me interest. Yeah, the TV in the past was definitely a lot better. I don't care what you say. And I don't care what they're going to say in the future. It was definitely better in the... Yes. That's my argument, is yes.
It's hard to argue. I probably agree with you, but the younger people of today may not.
Yeah, but they don't know nothing.
There is that. I think we can agree on that as well. They know nothing.
Yes, but I'll give you an example. Thursday night, I've just never forgotten it. It was a big night. I mean, Thursday on BBC Two, there were 3 programmes, and I would never, even though I was quite young back then, I would never go out on a Thursday because, first of all, there was Call My Bluff with Frank Muir, and I know he was witty, wasn't he? And Patrick Campbell. And they both had, it was a strange thing, they both had speech impediments. Patrick Campbell had a stutter and Frank Muir had a lisp.
He did, yes. He did have a lisp, yes. And who was the other captain? Was it Dennis Norden?
Well, there was only two
Maybe
in
not.
Call My Bluff.
There was
Patrick Campbell, the
chairman.
Irishman.
Yeah, he was the chairman.
No,
And they
Patrick
were
Campbell
then-
was the team. No.
Right.
No, I'm sure.
sure.
Well, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I
Right.
think Patrick Campbell, the Irishman, who sounded ever so English, by the way, but he was Irish. Patrick Campbell was a team captain, and Dennis Muir. Now, who was the chairman?
Now, here we... Well, I'm just looking it up now because you've intrigued me.
Okay.
The first chairman was a bloke called Robin Ray. And the game comprised of 2 teams of 3, a captain and 2 guests, who would compete to earn points by identifying the correct definitions of obscure words.
Yeah.
The teams took turns to give 3 definitions, 1 true, 2 bluffs. It's a bit like Would I Lie to You these days. And
Yeah, but
it was
more
presented
sophisticated
originally...
and more witty.
Originally presented by Robin Ray, and then Joe Melia, Peter Wheeler, who used to work at BBC Radio Manchester, Robert Robinson, that you're referring to, Bob Holness, and then later on, Fiona Bruce and Angus Dayton. So those are the chairpersons.
What about Patrick Campbell and Dennis Muir? I've got this wrong, haven't I?
Well,
my memory isn't as sharp as I thought it was.
Yeah, Robert Morley and Frank Muir captained the teams. Morley was later succeeded by Patrick Campbell, and then
yes,
and then Arthur Marshall.
Right. Well, it was the Patrick Campbell, Dennis Muir. Oh no! Look, it's too nearly bedtime. But after that, the 3 programmes: Thursday night, BBC 2, Call My Bluff, Alias Smith and Jones followed, and what followed that was I, Claudius. What a night, eh?
They're remaking that, aren't they?
Oh, really?
I think so. I never watched it, but I believe they're remaking it. I seem to have read somewhere.
Well, they've shown it. I saw a couple of episodes on Channel 11. It's BBC. What is it now? I've had a busy day, as you can tell. It's Channel 11. It's a BBC channel. It's a beauty. No, it's 9. That's Sky. Do you know? I'm beginning to feel sorry I called.
Fear not.
My information is total rubbish here. And I thought I knew
it's
what
close
I was talking about.
Not to worry. Good on you anyway, Margaret. There was good telly in the past for that.
Well,
for that there is no doubt.
Alan, all I will say is I watched a show tonight, and I won't mention any channels or any names of this show, but there are people out in the wilderness of Canada trying to survive on their own. And I'm thinking, do they think we're idiots? They're not going to allow these people to die out in Canada. They're not going to leave them there to starve to death. So they must think we're idiots, because for me, there's no suspense in that show. I know that these people are.
You're right in that they won't leave them to die.
Yeah,
but you still get them attempting to find a way of surviving.
Oh,
so there's some sense in it, but the jeopardy isn't death.
Look.
Yeah, but for us it's finding a cheaper supermarket.
Exactly.
For them, it's deciding whether this berry'll. For them, it's deciding whether this berry'll feed me or kill me. Well, have a good night, Margaret. 0800 218 2255 to join us. How did Trevor?
Hi, Alan. I just like to say, I think television today is pretty good. I mean, we've had Squid Games recently, and a couple of the quiz programs are very good. I've forgotten the name of it. The one that's on BBC 4, used to be on BBC 4, that's moved to BBC 2, where they play puzzles and all that, and a lot of people like that game. There's a lot of nice stuff on. Incidentally, I wanted to talk about Nadine Dorries and Richie Sunak, but first of all, I'd just like to say I was listening to Mark Tolley last night, yesterday afternoon, about India, one of his programs. I did some tapes of his the 50th anniversary of the founding of India from 1998, I presume, and. It was a really. I mean, I've heard it before, but it started right at the beginning with Nehru's speech and this kind of. But he does such a good. A good insight into India, and Mike Tolley's a really good interviewer and a very good presenter. But even now, even today, the people who presented from India today are very good. I mean, Eugenie Vainaratham, I think she's called, and. What's got? What's got on my head? I was called. It's got on my head. I will show up about that. But the thing is, Rishi Sunak and Nadine Dorries. I think the letter from Nadine Dorries was rather than an assassination attempt on the Prime Minister. It's in words, it's such. But I mean, they're both heavyweights. I said this to somebody else today. They're both heavyweights. And I don't understand why she couldn't say what she said in Parliament first. I don't understand why Parliament's been sidelined and it's not part of our democracy in the same way it used to be. I know it's on the channel, the BBC Parliament channel, which is fantastic. I know there's Parliament television, which is fantastic. But when the debates used to be on BBC 4, and you'd go home and you'd know from the papers there's going to be a debate, and you'd listen to it, and you get a sensational one like when the Falklands War was being declared, or when Margaret Thatcher resigned, with Geoffrey Howe made his speech about dead sheep, and when she was, they wouldn't say about Geoffrey Howe, they said he was like a dead sheep, savaging Margaret Thatcher. I mean, these things are just historic, and I think the BBC does them so very, very well. And they've never stopped doing them so well, the BBC. Even today, they do have programmes which are just fantastic. I mean, I mentioned before the Dawn Chorus, which I think is fantastic, where they just different morning chorus, where they pick different artists to have songs every week and every day. And it's and they're different and such a wide range of music. I mean, I did see that on about what is it? Is it Radio 6? Radio 6 Music's doing something. I can't think what it is. And I saw something like that. There's something coming up to commemorate something there. I don't often listen to Radio 6 music, but I do like Anne Frankenstein. I think she's very good. I think she's very, very good. But there's some good stuff on the BBC anyway, even today. So yeah. But I don't think Nadine Dorries quite got the measure of Richie Sunak, and I don't think he's got all his targets. I don't know what you think about that, Alan. I don't think he's reached all his targets, Richie Sunak. All these things he said he would do. He's not.
Are you saying that her letter, which I've read in total, many people have now, it's been published everywhere, are you saying that her letter wasn't sufficiently critical, or are you saying it was too critical?
It was probably about right. I don't think she's...
All right. I think so when you said she's not got the measure of him, you're now saying that she got it about right. Those in my simple mind, seem like contradictory statements.
What I mean by that is she's a lieutenant of Boris Johnson, who has also had a hard job as Prime Minister, and yet she didn't seem to give the credit. She gave the credit to Boris Johnson that was also needed for Rishi Sunak, and yet comparing the two men is like chalk and cheese as such. It's a very difficult thing to do. She got the balance not quite right in the letter. It was a good letter. It addressed both men, but the balance wasn't quite. Yeah.
Well, nobody's perfect. Well, apart from me.
No.
I'll do Shafiq.
I'm okay, my dear friend Alon. Again, I like to talk about the Russia President Putin. Yeah, when I was 27 years old, I was student in my hometown in Burnley College. That time, first time I write to UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. One time, whole world leader.
Shafiq, Shafiq, without going through your correspondence with every world leader since the year dot, just tell me what you think of Putin.
Putin is I seen one time whole world leader come together, they taking picture and
just
Putin
tell me what you think of Putin.
Putin can't do war alone because this year is our. Even China not with him. Thank you.
Good night. I'll do Peter.
Hello.
Hello.
I think it was only Connect, that programme the lady was talking about.
Right.
That's moved. Sorry, the gentleman was talking about a quiz show that's moved from BBC 4 to BBC 2. I think it's only Connect, isn't it?
I've no idea.
Have you seen that? It's a good quiz, actually, with Victoria
No,
Coren
I've not
Mitchell.
seen
Oh, not to worry then.
I've not seen it.
No,
I wasn't.
Everyone keeps going on about you leaving soon. I don't want you to leave. Is there no chance at all that when they have this ridiculous non-local national radio that you could be the DJ between 10 and, or the presenter between 10 and 1, as you are now?
No chance whatsoever.
Why is that then? Because the contract isn't there, or
I
or
didn't
you
ask to do
you've
it.
had enough. Sorry.
I don't like doing national radio. First of all, I don't think a program like this would survive very long on national radio.
Because it's more of a northwesterny program, you mean?
No, it's less professionalised.
And they try to dictate too much to you of how to do it, kind of thing.
I think they might do. I don't know, but I think they might do.
And is there no way they think they can ever change their mind about what they're about to do?
Well, the programme that replaces this may be exactly that. It may be a phone-in presented by someone who's even more adept at wriggling than I am. But it won't be me, because I didn't ask to do it.
But it's definitely going that way. They can't go backwards now and keep it as X number.
Well, they can do what they like. They're the bosses. They can do what they like. They're the bosses. But they've made their decision, and they don't look like they're going to change it. And the wheels are turning.
Has there been much of a public outcry though against all this? Because there seems to be from people.
I've no idea. I don't know. I'm never in the office. I work from home, and
don't they kind of tell you a bit
idea
about what's going on behind the scenes, though, the BBC, about as it involves you?
I think they probably realise I don't give a stuff.
Anyway, that's not really why I came on.
Okay, so should we get to what you did do?
To the a store today, and this store used to be in the centre of town, and like a lot of towns, they pulled out. And in the past, they did both food and clothing and lots of other stuff. But the stores they've retained now tend to just do food. And in order to get me to go to this new store that they've created, they've given me a voucher. And it says, if you download the app, one of these apps, you'll get X% off clothes and a £5 off a £40 shop. So I downloaded the app, or at least I tried to, and it didn't work. And I tried again, and they've given you one of these, is it a QR code, those little square things with all the little bricks? Have you seen those at all?
I've seen them, I think it is, yes.
Yeah, and you're supposed to hover your phone over them, and it captures them, which mine did, and then you press the button, and there's the app. And did it work? No. So I tried again. You have to uninstall it, and, to cut a long story short, after 5 goes, it did download the app. So I did my clothes shopping online, and you can pick your clothes up at the store. and then I went in the store and did me over £40 shop. So I did everything the thing had told me I could do to get this money off, and did it give me the money off? No. So what's the point of all these apps if they don't work?
Well, yours is one that doesn't. I'm sure many thousands do. So maybe you should talk. Maybe you should talk to the people.
Is it the apps? I've tried 4 recently. They've all gone belly up, all of them.
Well, it's starting to look like you, isn't it? The only constant in that is you.
Shall I get someone with an IT brain to help me then?
You must do whatever you wish.
I mean, I rang them up, and you get through to a call centre. I think this one was in South Africa, and they cut you off about a dozen times. And I just lost the will to live after that. I just thought, well, never mind. It's only a £5. Let's go to the other store where they still have people, and clothes. There's a bigger one.
That may well direct the future of stores by people saying, I'm not going to play your digital game, you can stick your stuff up your bottom. And that might be the way forward, who knows. Have a good night, Peter. I'll do. Yeah. Indeed. I'll do Ted.
All right, Alan. Just to say, in the 60s, Alan, in the 60s.
Go on.
In the 60s, a swarm of UFOs came to the air.
Really? Okay. That it? I'm afraid your signal is breaking up. It might be the interference from a swarm of UFOs, who can know. But I was around in the 60s and I don't remember it, but I didn't read as many papers then as I do now. Such is life.
It's very UFOs, John.
Sorry?
It's very UFOs.
You'd have to define it. I mean, if something is flying and I see it and I don't know what it is, then it is, as far as I'm concerned, an unidentified flying object. But it might just be a cricket ball.
It makes no noise.
Ted, I'd love to talk to you more, but the signal is breaking up, which some people might think is a blessing, but thank you. 0800 218 2255. If I throw this from here to there, and you see it go past my window, and you think, I wonder what that is, then what you have seen is something flying. It's an object, something, that's an object. And you don't know what it is, so it is an object that is flying that you know not what it is. In other words, you cannot identify it. In other words, it is unidentified, and it's flying, and it's an object. It's an unidentified flying object. Those kinds of things I believe in. The ones driven by extraterrestrial beings, I've yet to be convinced. 0800 218 2255. A few moments ago, a little while ago, about half an hour ago, we had Albert talking about his letter, or the letter to his widowed mother after his father died in a bombing raid over Germany back in the Second World War. Some years ago, I had the privilege of recording a documentary about Mike Harding on tour. And one day, he said to his crew as they set up at the theatre they were in that night, because they move every day, as he was setting it up, he said, I want to try a new song. He said, all right. So Dave, his sound man, said, okay, and they got the lights sorted and all that, and then he sat at the piano, and he played a song called Bomber's Moon. I told you about this the other night, and I said then that I asked him how long it took to write, and he said to write it took about half an hour, or the whole of my life, because Mike's father died in a bombing raid on the way back from Germany, back in the Second World War. Mike never knew his dad. This is the song, Ordinary, that kills people. It's not, it's not a machine gun attack or a bomb going off or whatever. He said it's just something very, very ordinary. You might get ill, you might get poorly and not survive it, and it's ordinary. And it kind of catches you up, doesn't it? You just think, crikey, that's where we are, that's where we're going, that's where we're all going, we're all going to end up that way, which is a sobering thought. You think we'd behave better with that knowledge about us, wouldn't you? But we apparently don't know how to. How to, Simon?
I was driving my brother-in-law's mother from Staley Bridge to Peterborough once at winter time for Christmas, and we got to somewhere around Orkham, and we went south, and there was a flood, and there were no signs, no warnings, no nothing, and something in me made me stop the car, and I stopped the car yards from this flood. The river had burst its banks, completely flooded the road, and if I'd have gone at speed into that, I'd have drowned. Isn't that weird?
Wow. Yeah. But it's the randomness of life, isn't it?
Photograph, yeah. But when you saw the aerial photograph of that area the next day on the television news, God, we were lucky. Anyway, that's not what
Crazy.
I rang about. I rang about the lady on earlier talking about, was it to call my bluff?
Yeah.
And she was absolutely right. The captains were Patrick Campbell and Frank Muir, and the chairman was Robert Robinson for quite a long period in the 70s. So she was absolutely right. So she doesn't need to chastise herself, because she was spot on. And then they had two guests, and as you rightly said, they had to say whether something was true or false, didn't they?
Yeah. Call my bluff.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got a modern version of it now called Would I Lie to You?
That's right, yes, but it's not as good. And there was also a programme with a dummy keyboard. What the hell was that? That was Robin Ray as well, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't know that one. A dummy keyboard?
Yeah, they had, you had to guess what tune this guy was playing, and they'd taken the notes off the keys.
Oh, I see what you mean, right. So you just saw his hands.
They called it a dummy keyboard. Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Good heavens, I never saw that. That would have been fascinating.
I can't. Was it My Music or something like that?
I don't know.
It was Robin Ray, and Robin Ray was the first presenter, as you rightly said, of Call My Bluff. But we didn't even have BBC, and I used to watch it with my mates because he had a colour set, and we used to go around and watch his colour set.
Fair enough.
And we used to watch Stingray in colour on HTV Wales at 11 o'clock.
Stingray.
That's
I used to like the baddies, because the baddies talk. They used to talk like this, didn't they?
Oh, those were, yeah, that was. And who was the guy on the hill where all his stuff turned round? What was he called?
Oh, I don't know.
He sounded a bit like. Who was the guy that's. The guy in the Al Stewart song? A really creepy guy. He can speak like that. What was his name? I can't remember now. You know? Lived in this creepy house on the hill, and when they came, all his things spun round. So he
have no
pretend
idea.
he was an old. Oh, it's really good that. I've forgotten his name. We'll come back to you. It was in colour Stingray, and it was made in 1964. But ITV didn't go colour till the 15th of November, 1969, and BBC One and ITV went colour on the same day, and it was a Saturday, and they showed Thunderbirds.
Right.
How's that for memory?
It's not bad. Do you remember what the modelling system was called for Thunderbirds?
Super Marionation, and it was Jerry and Sylvia Anderson.
Super Marionation, that's it. It was Jerry Anderson.
And remember the Champions?
Yeah, I do.
The TV Champions with Alexandra Bastido. Wasn't she gorgeous, Alan? Well, I remember that was first shown on the 25th of September, 1968 at 8 p.m, and I had a concert at primary school, and they'd had loads of previews of this, and I thought, I really want to watch this, And my mum and dad had to drag me from the television at 10 minutes past 8. So I missed 75% of the programme. But they did cards with chewing gum in colour. Even though the Champions was first shown in black and white, they did colour cards because the programme was actually filmed in colour. And I got those cards, and there's always one missing, so you have to keep buying the chewing gum. Do you remember that? And I
don't remember buying the cards. I wasn't that big a sucker, but I interviewed.
44. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say I interviewed Stuart Damon, who was one of them, and I've interviewed Bill Gaunt. Yeah, and Bill Gaunt, who's one of the best actors this country has ever seen, William Gaunt.
William Gaunt, he was called in that.
The other character. Was the other character.
That's right.
And he eventually, along with 3 others, became the artistic, or one of a group of the 4 artistic directors of the Playhouse Theatre in Liverpool. And 2 of the others were Alan Bleasdale and Willie Russell.
Goodness me, I love Willie Russell. But who was Tremaine? There was a guy, an older guy with a beard called Tremaine, wasn't there, their boss? I think it was Anthony Nichols. Do you remember him?
No.
Anthony Nichols.
I don't know.
All right. And you don't remember the individual episodes then, no?
No.
Because there was a really dramatic one where they interrogated Stuart Damon, Craig Sterling, all through the programme. And that, as a boy, that really was quite frightening because it was quite different to the rest of the series. And he was trapped in a room for almost the entire series because he'd created his mission. So he'd done his mission so well, they thought there was something wrong. And the other 2 knew that he was being interrogated, and it was really dramatic, that one. And in the end, he broke out of the room by something that you could lift the... anyway.
We're all making notes so that we can look it up on the telly and find it on one of the million channels. But Stuart Damon toured... Excellent. Stuart Damon toured Britain as a singer. He was also a singer.
Yes.
Anyway, there you are. That's how I came to interview.
He wasn't that good, but he was a singer. But he did a long run in America on a hospital program for years and years and years, didn't he? And,
I don't know.
I think it was called General Hospital or something hospital, and they all met up together, the 3 of them, as a reunion just before Alexandra Bastido died first, and she was 10 years younger than the other 2. So that was really sad. She ran a donkey sanctuary in Kent or something.
Right. Well, you've got to fill your time somehow. Simon, thank you very much indeed. How do Graham?
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
The birds are gone.
Well, they've gone now. But go on.
Do you know that guy on Thunderbird 5?
Sorry?
Oh, nobody knew him. The guy on Thunderbird 5, yeah.
You have me at a loss. Do continue.
Well, yeah, of course you used to watch it. We were glued to it.
Was I?
Well, I presume so anyway. Well, the point is, like,
you
five,
were.
like, yeah. Like, back in the 60s, but I noticed, like, on Thunderbird 5, you were marooned up in space. So I'm inclined to think now, like, we're the black sheep of the family.
I don't understand that. I still don't understand it.
All right. Maybe. Well, you're never going to take up drinking at 74. Anyway, Mike Harding, brilliant man. You put Mike Harding on early on, and and you're saying like, oh, brilliant Mike Harding, the Rochdale Cowboy.
Yeah.
Clever guy. To be a top comedian, without like swearing and stuff, like, I mean, I love me Chubby Brown and Billy Connolly as well, like the other guy. And one of the guys mentioned that Dave Allen, one of the best comedians of all time. Yeah. Anyway, before I go, I know a lot of people are talking about the war. Don't mention the war and all that. Incidentally, my old father, like your dad, he was in the D-Day landings. He was in the Black Watch.
My dad wasn't in the D-Day landings, but do go on.
Oh, I thought you did do. Oh, that's excuse me for. Thank you for.
No matter.
I stand corrected. Okay.
So he was in the D-Day landings in the Black Watch.
Yeah. And he had a talk about it, and I didn't know till years later that he liberated Belgium. And consequently, over the years, he hated Christmas for some reason. And then, there you go. And I just read Cold Dicks, that cracking book by McIntyre. Recommend that book. So, I'm escaping now.
Cheers.
Hey, by the way, just one more. Are you going to have a party before you finish? Are you going to have before you get pensioned off and all that? No?
No.
But no doubt we'll hear your voice again and somebody will take over and you ring up. We'll hear from you, Alan.
Not a
Great
chance.
talking to Alan.
And you, ta-ra. 0800 218 2255. How do, Trevor?
Good evening, Alan. Fascinating programme, as always. What rather unpleasant insect is always on time?
I don't know.
A cockroach. Yeah, thank you. That's exactly the kind of reaction I love. I've got a couple of multiple choice quiz questions for you as a special treat, Alan. What colour are sunsets on Mars? Purple, green, red or blue?
I've no idea.
Apparently, blue.
Right.
And approximately how many brain cells are there in a human brain? 86,000, 86 million, 86 billion, or 86 trillion?
I think I'll go for the third one.
I think you'd be absolutely right. 86 billion, apparently.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, isn't it?
It's mind-boggling, you might say.
They used to say drinking alcohol kills brain cells. And I remember a bloke saying, yeah, but I remember a doctor, a psychiatrist saying, I've got 86 billion. Until I'm down to 85, I'm going to keep drinking. So that's how I know about that book.
There you are. Classic TV seems to have been a bit of a theme, including some remarkably detailed information. But I just offer that I think the BBC Two programme with the dummy keyboard was called Face the Music. I think it was presented by Joseph Cooper. And Thunderbirds is coming back. The original Thunderbirds from 1965-6 is back next Saturday afternoon on Talking Pictures TV. So all the Thunderbirds fans out there can relive those exciting moments again. I have to say my favourite characters were Lady Penelope and Parker Yusuf-Milady. No, that was my favourite bit, really. Anyway, so I just thought I'd let you know that.
She was a sort of an adult forerunner of Barbie.
Interesting comparison, yeah.
Everything about her was pink and all of that.
Pink Rolls Royce, was it? She drove something like that.
It was something like that. Yeah, it was certainly a flashy car, but yeah.
Yeah.
So there you are. She was the harbinger of Barbie, which is a phenomenally successful film at the moment. It's probably the biggest grosser for donkey's years.
I know.
And I mean, we had young girls staying with us just recently, and I said to the mum, should we take them to see Barbie? And she said, they can't. And I said, why not? What kind of a cruel mother are you? And she said, they're not allowed in, they're not old enough. They brought a film out about Barbie. Yeah. And you think, hang on a minute, what's going on here? It's for kids.
Apparently not entirely. It's a slightly different take. I haven't seen it, but that's what.
Well, yeah, but come on. I mean, I'm not an authority on Barbie, but quite frankly, she doesn't get laid. I've seen the bloke one with his clothes off. He hasn't even got a willy.
Which makes it difficult, doesn't it? Really? But
yeah, Todulus Ken.
The Loch Ness Monster got a mention last night, and
Yes.
I have some exciting news from the.
You found it?
Not personally, but during the hunt for Nessie today, observers using very sophisticated acoustic equipment reported hearing unidentified gloops, whatever a gloop is, but that's what they reported hearing. But unfortunately, they then realised they've forgotten to plug in their recording device.
I know, isn't that terrible? Isn't that terrible? And I mentioned it earlier on, and I said the team are very, very excited that they may be the first people in the world to actually hear a dinosaur fart, and they missed it. You just
that's pretty tragic, really. After all the effort that's going in, isn't it?
I know.
Right, I've got a little sort of meander through a couple of stories that I picked up on. A sports report from the Orkney Isles. A football match was apparently thrown into disarray when a bird, one Blue the macaw, swooped in mid-game and began squawking loudly, disrupting play and upsetting the players. Apparently Blue was being chased by crows and gulls, and this match between a cup match between Stromness and Hotspur, I'm assuming not the Tottenham variety, but a cup match between Stromness and Hotspur. Stromness were losing 4-0, but after the intervention of the birds, the match ended in a 5-all draw, and then Stromness went on to win on penalties. So there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I know that.
I thought you would be. I caught the end of the news, and there was something about eating a lot of cream cakes. I noted I do eat a lot of cream cakes, but not at speed and not in those kind of numbers. But I noticed that the major American hot dog eating contest came to the United Kingdom for the first time today in a qualifying event for some reason in Selsey in West Sussex, in which the top male and female competitors in that heat go to New York next year to the World Championship, and apparently the record is 76 hot dogs in 10 minutes.
It's a lot easier to swallow than trombones.
I really don't get that. But anyway, there we are.
76 trombones in the parade. Never mind.
No, I didn't mean I didn't get your reference. I don't get this speed eating thing. It just seems.
Oh, right. No, nobody does.
No, I did get your 76 trombones, Alan. I'm not quite as stupid as I sound. Well, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably a blessing for many. On the subject of cream cakes, you may not believe this, but you get to interview lots of different people in my job. And a good 20, maybe 25 years ago, I interviewed a prostitute.
Okay.
And it was for a programme about After Dark. And I interviewed this woman in London on the programme, and it was the programme was called After Hours. After Dark was a television version, and I interviewed her because she wouldn't come into the studios and take part in a panel discussion. And it was a 2-hour discussion programme, so the interview was laced through the programme. And the bit that got the most complaints was I asked her, because we were recording it, so you can get away with a lot when you're recording, because if the answers are not broadcastable, then it doesn't matter. And I asked her, what was the strangest client she ever had, and she said, "Oh, most definitely, one of my regulars." And I said, "And why was, you're a bit trepidatious." Yeah, why? But it's pre-recorded, so it doesn't matter. And we did use it. And I said, why was he the most peculiar? And she said, "Well, he used to pay me £15, and I had to stand naked, and he threw cream cakes at me."
Yes. Well, there we are.
He used to turn up with this paper bag with about 20 cream cakes in it, and I there are some steps you ought not to take, and I thought, I sod it in for a penny, and I said, "Does he eat them afterwards?" She said, "No, he just leaves the money and goes." What?
I'm tempted to say what a waste of cream cakes, but anyway.
She didn't say she didn't eat them. Very strange
can I fit in
Please
two quick ones to finish? Grey squirrels are back in the news again.
Yes.
Scientists want to stop culling them, a la Beswick and others, and to use contraceptives mixed in with hazelnut spread, which apparently the grey squirrels are particularly keen on hazelnut spread. But it seems to me that I think they said there are 2.7 million of the little buggers about, in which case that's going to involve an awful lot of hazelnut spread. And finally, definitely finally, did you see that the guy who was mistakenly interviewed on a news program, he'd come in for some other reason, and they got him confused with a guest who was talking on a specialist subject, and it ended up with this very bizarre interview. Well, the guy who was mistakenly interviewed apparently is planning to sue the BBC to get royalties for the use of this clip, and he seems to be thinking in terms of $1 million or more. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but
interesting, sort of.
Yeah, very strange. Okay.
Right. Thank you for the conversation as always, Alan.
Have a good night.
Cheers.
0800 218 2255. So I've just told a story about a woman getting paid to stand naked and have cakes thrown at her. And what's the complaint? Not about the story, no, I called her a prostitute. I should have said a sex worker. I'll do Karen.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks.
Well, what it is about the flooding in Liverpool where the 2 people died.
Yes.
I read up about it on the Echo News before, and then I was listening to your show, and you mentioned it. But then there's a lot of flaws in the story, because you said that the water's 15 inches deep, which is very more than a swimming pool. And then the taxi driver, a female taxi driver, drove towards it, then seen red light in the water and turned around, told her friends to phone the police.
Right.
It just seems a bit odd, because I live in Liverpool, and like that where that hill is, it is quite deep, but to drive into that water, it's really baffling.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment there isn't enough information for us to have a reasonable conversation about it. But Karen, thank you for your input. Thank you very much. How to Ken?
Oh, very good evening to you, Alan. How are you?
Awfully well, thank you.
Excellent. I just wanted to ask you what your perception of Freemasonry is.
I don't really have one much. The few Freemasons I know seem to be decent blokes.
Yeah.
It's not my cup of tea, because, all that dressing up and that is a bit weird. My wife used to work with, I've forgotten his full name, but his name was Knight, and he wrote a a book, an expose, as he would describe it, he's dead now, as he would describe it, of Freemasonry. But I don't really have a view of it. I don't know enough about it. I know about the distinction. It's not a secret society; it's a society with secrets, and I can take the semantic change that brings about. But grown men dressing up and commenting on the great architect in the sky, I just think it all sounds a bit childish to me.
I think there's a lot of bad press at the moment with Freemasonry, and people have a negative view on it because people class it as a secret society, not a society with secrets. So I just wanted to know what you thought on it.
Well, I don't have a view on the entity. Like all organisations, it's presumably good and bad in parts. I do know from time to time I notice stories where the local Freemasonry group have given money to a charity or raised funds for a charity or what have you for charitable intent. So they do good work. Whether they do bad work, I don't know. But certainly, I just think the whole rigmarole of dressing up, I just think how silly.
Yeah. I can see how that could be silly to the outside. I'm a Freemason.
I mean, you are a Freemason, so
I am. Yeah.
What's the point of? Is it true that you roll your trouser leg up and swear allegiance to the great architect in the sky? It's a yes/no question, really.
It is, yes, that is true.
Well, don't you think that's a bit little boy games?
It can seem that way, yeah, but I mean, the core values are brotherly love, relief and truth, and obviously the charity as well. I guess it's what you
can have all that,
want to get out of it.
Why do you have to have the fancy dress and the childish bit? I don't understand.
Yeah. It's a very good question, that, Alan. And I think it dates back to over 300 years and things haven't changed.
Well, that's fine. That's why it's done. But why keep it? It's clearly daft. So why keep it?
Yeah, it's tradition, and I don't think that will ever change.
No. Well, never mind. As long as it's not doing any harm, I don't care. But
exactly.
Somebody says to me, well, they don't, do they? But if somebody tells me him over there, he's a Freemason, I just get this image of him with his trouser leg rolled up and all his regalia, his little pinny on, and I just think, what a prat. And if he's doing good and helping poor people and people in difficulties elsewhere in the world and all that, great. He's still a prat.
Well, that's a very respectable response.
All right, then. Well, do enjoy and carry on with the good part of it. If you want, don't let me stop you. Have a good
night, Alan. Thank you.
0800 218 2255. How do, Peter?
How can you compare Lady Penelope with Barbie? Alan, come on.
She was the forerunner.
But she was so much
nicey, all the pink.
She was so much more sophisticated, and she was in pink, and she did have a pink Rolls Royce, but she had that gun at the front of it in the grill. Do you remember? And she'd go,
I do remember that now you mention it, yeah.
Parker, and he'd fire it and blast the evil beings off the face of the earth. Do you remember? And there were never any
sounds
cars.
like she's got a dog, doesn't it? Down, Parker,
Yeah.
down. Get down, Parker.
Yeah. But there were never any cars on the M1. There was just her car. And that was just so... Even in those days, there was a lot more traffic on the M1 than there were on Thunderbird's M1, but never mind. And they were always trying to fight people who'd recorded Thunderbirds on tape. Do you remember that? They'd recorded the shape, the planes and the shape, Thunderbird 1 and 2, and they weren't allowed to do that, and they had this warning device that went off on Thunderbird 1, I think it was, and they tried to wreck all the tapes so that people, or demagnetize them so that no one had a copy of their sophisticated craft, you see. Not that I can remember.
Weird. Weird as weird.
Did you like Thunderbirds then, Carly?
I only watched it a few times, but yeah, I found it a bit stilted. The way they bounced along, they couldn't walk.
Well, even
maybe
Jerry
I was too old.
said that, actually. That's why he liked doing... He did 1 or 2 live action dramas towards the end, didn't he? Called UFO and Space 1999. I preferred UFO with Ed Bishop, and they had made a second series of that, but Lou Grade, who was in charge of the money, pulled it because it wasn't doing as well in America. And the first series of UFO did very well because it was on after something that was getting a huge audience in America. But when it came to the second series, that didn't do as well. So he made, and they'd written all the scripts for it, and Ed Bishop had learned all the lines, and then they pulled him and changed it into Space 1999 using some of the same sets. And he had a nervous breakdown, actually, because he spent all that time learning the lines for the second series. So it's a real shame. He was a radio actor as well. He did a lot of work on BBC Radio 4 drama as well, didn't he, Ed Bishop? Very good.
No idea, but you don't have to learn your lines for that. They just sit and read them, don't we?
Well, no. I mean, actually, you were saying somebody the other week about the Archers, and you've stopped listening to the Archers, but it's really good at the moment. They brought Rob Titchener back, and he's fantastic. Yeah, really. Actually, you'll have to listen to that.
Well, no, I won't. You see, whenever they bring back a monster, whatever the soap. When they bring back a monster, because their ratings are flagging. So let's go back to
what's happened to the Archers? The ratings
I've no idea. It's just.
But they're very clever the way they brought him back because he's attacking Helen's 2 kids, and it's really good actually. Very well written, I think. But there.
Yeah, well, it's one of them. It's one of them things. If I listen to it, then I'll end up back on the wheel.
And didn't you enjoy being hooked then? No.
I've never enjoyed being hooked on anything.
No.
I've always thought...
I started listening to the Archers because my mum made me do the washing up at 6:45 it was on in those days, and I hated washing up. So I like the Archers because it took me away from this mundane task, and I recreated the kind of village of Ambridge in my head, and I've been hooked ever since. And the first episode I heard was the one where Polly got killed in a car crash. That's Sid Perks' wife. That must be in the late 60s, was it now? I can't remember. Maybe early 70s. But I've actually met quite a few of the actors and actresses that have been in the Archers because they've toured. One was at Buxton Opera House. And actually, I think Shula's married to Brian Aldridge in real life, isn't she? And
I think she is, yes. Are they both still alive? I don't know.
Lillian Bellamy at... she did a piece in, not Gauzes, what's the place? Goose Tree, near Dodrell Bank. They have a festival. Yeah, and I forgot the name of their festival now, but they have a series of dramas in 1 or 2 different places. I met Nicholas Parsons there, would you believe? He fell asleep on his one-man show, but he was 90. But it's a great guy, and he signed his book for me. Do you like Just a Minute?
It's all right, yeah. I'm not a fan of Sue Perkins, it's harder for me. But I
like Giles Brandreth and some of the more contemporary ones as well. But I like the traditional 4, which would be Clement Freud, Kenneth Williams, Peter Jones, and Derek Nemo was the other one, wasn't it? And Nicholas was in the chair there. And he started in 1967, and he didn't miss a single episode right up until his early 90s, did he? So that's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's been going along, and it's still going. It's starting another run next week, I think, isn't it? At 6:30 on a Monday, which is where it always was.
It must have started already because I heard one this evening.
Oh, right.
Or this lunchtime. But maybe
they repeat them on Sundays, don't they? So that's probably what you heard then. You probably heard a repeat of the first one. Yeah.
Quite possibly. But this is the first of two specials from the Edinburgh Fringe.
Well, I tried to get a ticket for that, and I got rejected, which is a shame. But I am going to see, because you were talking about Robert Robinson earlier, I'm going to see him I'm going to see Brain of Britain with the new presenter at Media City on Tuesday.
Enjoy.
The 30th, sorry, that's Wednesday, isn't it? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Never seen a radio series live before, so that's a new one.
It's a treat for you. Have a good night.
Absolutely.
How do Ian?
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Ian.
Sorry for comments. There was a young lady on before about flooding in the streets in Liverpool. And I'd just like to say the main reason why there's flooding in the streets, I've done drain work, it's because people leave litter all over the place. People don't put the litter in a bin. They're not respectable to the area they live. They just chuck stuff down the drains or down the street, and I think it's someone else is going to collect it. The councils don't have that much money they can afford to pay 2,000 workers to go around collecting everyone's detritus.
Yeah, I mean, litter must be a contributing factor. It's not the only one, though, is it? There are lots of other things. The drains in most towns and cities are very old and not able to cope with the amount of water that they're now getting.
Well, they're built in the Victorian times, a lot of them. And the water companies don't spend the money we pay them to actually improve the system. They get paid billions for the shareholders, but they don't actually do the work. But there is a major issue. I've noticed this in my own street. I live on Lower Breck Road. People just leave litter. Put the rubbish outside on the street. And the drains get blocked. I try to unblock a drain. It's a waste of time.
Well, we used to have, we used to call them the grid man, who used to go around with his big corporation lorry, what sucks water out of holes, as the Minor Birds said in a song they recorded. But that's it. And they would go around and clear them, but you rarely see that now. I mean, I've not lived in a town for a long time, so.
There's men going round. There's men going round nearly 3 times a week, cleaning up. But the people just don't respect what their job is. They don't respect them, and they just put litter down.
I'm not disagreeing with you that people litter, and it's disgraceful. But there are bigger problems with the sewers and even the land drains than just litter. Bigger problems, but not littering would help a lot.
Well, I've just noticed. I've walked around this area where I live. I've noticed every grid is blocked by litter. I know people wonder why the flooding.
Well, it might not be litter that's blocking. It might not be litter that's blocking it. It might be something further down that is blocking it, and the litter is piling on top of it. Could be.
They've got the grid.
It could be one of those fatbergs.
No, but I'm talking about the actual grids on the top. The grids are blocked on the top. It's not down below. The grids are blocked on the top by people just leaving litter.
Well, let us hope everybody listening now stops dropping litter, and then there'll be no more flooding, which is fantastic. Thanks, Ian. How do Sam?
Hi, Alan. You know, if the council,
You know, before
You've disappeared.
me now. Hello.
I heard the now.
Yeah. So I've got this ridiculously good method for someone to stop smoking. I want to say that at the end of my conversation, because hang me up when I talk about two more other things.
Depends how fed up I am.
Okay. Unidentified flying objects. I personally don't believe they exist, because when there was a world war in Rochdale, as you go in towards Halifax, Holyoke Lake, if you go towards there with Pennine, there was a lot of sightings of what people used to call them UFOs, unidentified flying objects. And then after a while, the government released documents, and there happened to be like German planes or German missiles and stuff like that. And these identified flying objects that we see now, it could be very much that, but far more advanced. Like people, even the USA or Britain could be sending stuff like that to other countries that we don't know of. I'm just saying. So it could be stuff like that.
Well, it's impossible to argue against. It could be that, because yes, it could. It could be all sorts of things. It could be flying pigs with light bulbs on their heads. It's what so it definitely is. We don't know. Hence,
so they could be telling us. So they could be telling us about the stuff that they send to us that are unidentified and that they're seeing, but they could not be telling us about the stuff they're sending the other way. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, could be. Who knows?
Yeah, it's top secret. Top secret.
Yes.
In 50 years, every 50 years they release these documents, and because then it doesn't matter. Every 50 years they will release these sorts of secret documents. Both, like most places. Yeah. So I think it's that. I think it could be, don't name countries. It could be any country sending.
Yeah, we've got the message. You said you were going to talk about someone at the end, and you're running out of time. So what was the second thing?
Yeah, so if you're a smoker and you want to quit, the best method that I've realised is go cold turkey on cigarettes and get e-cigarettes, them fancy ones, disposable ones, and then stay on them for about 6 months, and then go to the one that you actually charge at home, and then use that for 6 months, and then it's so much more easier to stop smoking that way, because you're gradually bringing down the method and changing the method, and then before you know it, your smoking is something totally different to what it was originally was.
I can't be sure, Sam, but I think somebody else might have thought of that as well. I'll do Barbara.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Barbara.
Hello, Sam here. A lot of people call me Barbie, ironically. I'm Todulus Ken's wife, the gentleman who called you to talk about Freemasonry a couple of calls ago.
Okay.
I just thought I'd call because when I was listening, you were discussing, or you and Kenneth were discussing all the positives of Freemasonry, but I just wanted to have a brief conversation about the downsides of it.
Please do.
Okay. So, Kenneth's currently out at some kind of lodge event or jumpers and jazz or something like that. And what I find about the Freemasonry is that it's quite a sexist group. I mean, what other events do you know, or organisations do you know where it is allowed to exclude a huge group of people? I mean, 50% of the population can't join the Freemasonry. What do you think about that, Alan?
I don't think about it.
Please do. I'd appreciate your thoughts.
Okay, it's a private organisation. It's entitled to have as its members who it wishes.
Is that true, though? Because if people were to discriminate
What
against
do you mean if it's true?
would that be okay? Is that
I thought you were asking I didn't say it was okay. If people, if every organisation that exists has to allow every type of person that exists to become a member, then how do you have a private club?
I don't like all this secrecy. Another problem is that I'll be honest with you, Alan. Kenneth's always at the lodge, and jobs are piling up at home. I mean, there's dishes this evening from dinner. There's painting and decorating to be done. The garden's overgrown. There's lots and lots of things to be done at home, and quite frankly, this Freemasonry is quite an expensive hobby. As you mentioned, we're kind of paying for Ken to dress up as a little boy for £400 a year in lodge fees, and it's absolutely ludicrous with the cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
A lot of money. That's it, really. I just wanted to ensure that we kind of expose the Freemasonry for what it is, and they say family first, Freemasonry second, but I don't feel that's true. I'm at home on my own now, with all these jobs to do while Kenneth's at the lodge. Yes, so just quite upsetting.
Well, Barbie, it is indeed a tough world. I can't imagine why some fellow would choose to spend an evening with other fellows rather than with you, but have a good night. How do, Graham?
I've got some Thunderbirds facts and figures.
Right. Go on.
I'm pretty pleased as well that it's making a reappearance on Talking Pictures TV next Saturday, because I was just about to buy the DVD set and they're pretty expensive. So that saved me the bother. Okay, the Rolls Royce. It was a third of proper car size. It was 7 feet long, and it was built and designed and all the rest of it by Rolls Royce themselves. They didn't take any money for this, but they did insist on 2 marketing things that went along with it. It had to have the Spirit of Ecstasy on the grill, and it could never be called anything like the Roller. It always had to be referred to as the Rolls Royce, as in Parker.
Right.
Yeah, the Rolls Royce. Why? It had to be so big because they had to get those 2 dummies inside, and the dummies were a third of the size of real human beings. The characters' heads look bigger. That's all the characters, because they had to put the controls for the lip and eye movements in, and they all had 3 heads. They had 3 heads, one with the regular expression, one with the smiling expression, and a kind of a grim, scared look.
Right.
All the astronauts, or all the pilots, are named after real astronauts. Scott Carpenter, John Glenn, Virgil Grissom, Gordon Cooper, and Alan Shepard, who were apparently all real astronauts from some time or other. All the main characters who drove all the Thunderbirds are modelled on existing actors of the time. I can't see any of them in it, but Jeff, the kind of gaffer of the whole affair, was Lorne Green. Scott was Sean Connery. Alan, a fella called Robert Reed, who I don't know. John was a mixture of Adam Faith and Charlton Heston. Brains, Anthony Perkins. I've looked long and hard at that, and I can't see any connection. But most staggering, I think. Parker. Do you remember who Ben Warris is, or was?
Yeah.
It was him. Now I don't know Ben Warris, and I've looked at a picture of him.
Did you say? Hang on, Ben Wallace? Are you saying?
No, Warris. Jimmy Jewell's old mate. W-A-R-R-I-S.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was how I was thinking of as well. Right. Well, it doesn't look like him, does he not? All right.
I don't think any of them look like anything that they were meant to have been modelled on.
Right.
But there you go. And finally, the effects guy who did all the explosions and the movement of the models and what have you also worked on such things for the Bond films. And if you ever see You Only Live Twice, where the rockets are coming in and out of a volcano, where the volcano water opens and then out they come, it just looks like a Thunderbirds episode.
Right, okay. I don't know whether that's good or bad, but there you go.
I always thought it was instantly recognisable. When I was a kid and I saw it, you pointed out to anybody who could be bothered to listen, it just looks like a Thunderbird episode.
Well, they'll all be watching for it on Saturday afternoon now, I guess. So we'll just have to see whether those characters are recognisable as the people upon which they're supposedly modelled. Well, thank you very much, Graham. We do like trivia. Have a good night. How do, Paul?
Hello, Alan. I would like to talk about how labour clubs have been shut down and the pubs are shutting down and the shops are now shutting down and how St Helens is turning into a bit of a ghost town. But they seem to be building more houses and they're getting better road networks. What do you think of that?
Well, building more houses is generally a good idea, and improving the road network is a good idea. It's unfortunate that clubs and pubs are closing down, but they're closing down because they're not making any money. So if you want to keep them open, more people need to use them.
Yeah, when I was at school, this country had a population of 57 million. And now I've read recently that it's got a population of 67 million. With all the buildings being knocked down like labour clubs and more houses going up, perhaps that's why they need more houses. But it's a ghost town in the street.
They need more houses because you are correct. There are more people. They need it for other reasons as well. More and more people are getting divorced after they've had a relationship, get married, get divorced. That's one house. Then they get divorced. That requires two houses, so that's an increase. Young people not bothering to get married, so staying single, that's a lot more houses than if they married somebody. So there are all sorts of reasons.
Yeah, you said in the past that if things didn't change, we'd still be driving around in horses and carts.
Well, this is true. If things didn't change, that is how we would still be, assuming we got out the caves.
Yeah, so things are changing. And I remember the labour clubs in the 70s. The music was terrible, I thought, in my opinion. I've been to around the Legion, a locality, and the music was terrible, But to think about a generation before me, I was wondering why it's shut, more people go these days.
Well, I don't go to labour clubs or any other sorts of clubs, so I don't know what the music's like.
Yeah, I was in Manchester the other day, and I was reading about the Curry Mile, and is it Rushall, with all the restaurants and curry houses?
Yes.
And it said there's people, the pubs round there are shutting. And whereas when Man City used to have the home games at Main Road, the pubs round there were making enough money on that day when Man City had their home games to close the rest of the week and not bother because they made enough business on the days Man City were playing at home. And now the shops where the Curry Mile was are called shush shops, where people from Middle East origins smoke pipes and you don't drink alcohol. So that's changing there. According to the Jewish Museum, I saw the posters on Thursday last week. So things are changing,
Yeah, things have always changed and hopefully will continue to do so. Good to hear from you, Paul. How do, John?
How do? You mentioned Dennis Norden.
Yeah.
When you were talking about Call My Bluff.
Yeah.
He worked with Frank Muir on My Word on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
And he wrote Take It From Here with Jimmy Edwards.
Jimmy Edwards.
Starring.
Yeah.
And Dennis Norden and Mark Frank Muir wrote that Take It From Here for Jimmy Edwards and Dick Bentley and Al McCauley was in it, I think, and Who else was it?
Yeah, they wrote a lot together, didn't they? They had, if I remember correctly, they had a house, a building, for want of a better expression, in Brewer Street, and they had one set of offices, and Spike Milligan had an office, and quite a few others as well. Yeah. In Brewer Street, in London, that is, in the West End.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a great time, Spike and Peter Sellers and Harry Siegel. It was a great time, and Frank round the horn.
Kenneth Horn, yeah.
That's a bit later on. But Frank Muir was superb on Call My Bluff, as was James Cameron.
It was a good programme. A good programme. Good programme.
Sorry?
It was a good programme.
It was, yes, it was.
They revived it comparatively recently, and I think Sandy Toksvik was the chairperson. She might have been a team leader, I can't remember, but it didn't quite catch on. I think its time had passed, and what we've now got, as I said earlier, is this thing. Pardon?
It was at dinner time, wasn't it, rather than in the evening?
I thought it was in the evening, but you may be correct. I don't know.
I know I watched it with my mother-in-law. She was very keen on it.
Yeah.
But it could well have been in the evening as well. Yeah, good stuff it was.
Yeah, very good.
Frank Muir once did an interview with Groucho Marx. And he talked to him for about an hour. It was very, very good. Frank Muir thought the world of Groucho Marx. And Groucho was he wasn't cheeky with it, he was very serious-minded. Told one or two jokes. It was very, very funny. And I wish I had taped it. I've lost the tape.
Well, you have to look on the BBC iPlayer, see if it's there, or BBC Sounds. You never know, it might be.
I'll have to give it a try. That I haven't tried that yet.
Well, it might work. Good on you, John. Good to talk to you, mate. How do Denise?
Hiya, Alan. I just wanted to talk about quiz shows, mate. I'm a big fan of shows. I've always have been, always will be. I'm just wondering if anybody could find out on the internet or you call us, why does The Chase, there's a programme called The Chase with Bradley Walsh. Now, I actually like Bradley Walsh, but The Chase, I think, is awful. It seems, I love Bradley Walsh on a quiz show called The Wheel of Fortune in the 80s it was. I would watch it, but I find The Chase awful and I can't watch it. But it seems to be on like about 18 hours a day on that channel, the preview. You know what I mean? Now I watch every quiz show there is when I can, But it's this Chase every time I turn on the telly to the quiz shows. The Chase is always on. And I wouldn't mind, but it's old Chasers from years ago, But saying that, I watch Bullseye, Jim Bevan. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have, yeah. I used to know Jim.
But I'm a big fan of Bullseye, but The Chase seems to be on about 18 hours a day. Every time I turn my telly on, I automatically go through the quiz shows, because I'm a big fan, as I say. But it seems to be on an awful lot. And then you've got the old Chase, and then you've got your celebrity Chase. It's always a Chase. Why do you think they're doing that? seems to be on
presumably
an
because they think-
awful.
Presumably because they think people like it.
Uh-huh. But about 12 to 18 hours a day it's on. So it must be like, it must have good ratings, but I can't understand why, because I think it's awful.
We can't all like the same things.
No, I know, yeah. But it does seem to be on an awful lot. But as I say, it's probably, as you said, Alan, it's probably something to do with the ratings. Makes people, I prefer Bullseye.
Well, they're not putting it on to make sure nobody watches the telly. I think they're putting it on to encourage people to watch the telly, so they must think it's good. But Denise, you can't like everything, but good to hear from you. How do Ian?
Hello, Alan. Sorry, I was on before about drains, but I was lucky enough to speak to you yesterday. We were talking about the forces and conflicts, and I want you to accept my apologies.
I don't accept apologies because they're not necessary. Good night. How do Michael?
Hello, I'd just like to say how much I enjoyed that song you played earlier by Mike Harding, Bombers Moon. And as you were playing it, I called up the lyrics on my mobile phone. It's a very moving song, and it reminded me very much of... I watched recently a repeat of the film The Dam Busters.
Yeah.
Have you seen that at all? The original film?
A long time ago, yeah.
And I didn't realise, the prisoner with Patrick McGowan?
Yeah.
He is in that film. For the very first time, he was outside the hallway where they had a conference going on, and the dog came up, and he I think the dog died the same day. This is a real true story, isn't it? The dog died when the guy went off on his mission. He got run over, I think. Is that right, in the film? His dog. I think it was called Gibson, wasn't he, the guy?
Yeah, maybe.
And it was so sad. And but Patrick McGowan, that was his first ever acting role. He was in Danger Man, and he was in The Prisoner. But that was his first ever acting role in that film, and he only had about less than 5 seconds of dialogue in it.
I guess they all have to start somewhere, don't
they? They got to start somewhere, yes. But what a lovely song. And I love Mike Harding when he did, was it Folk on 2, on Radio 2?
Yes, he did.
And I think he's great. So is he around the same age as you then, Mike Harding? He must be in his 70s now, is he?
Oh, aye. He's a couple of years older than me.
Oh, is he? Right. How old are you? 74, did you say the other day?
Yeah.
Or 75, something like that.
Well, I'm 74 now. I'll very shortly be 75.
Right. Yes, you're a good deal older than me, but you're still doing a great job, and you don't sound any different to when you started on the Red Rose all those years ago.
There you are.
I've still got some tapes of you there, and it sounds very similar. When you were working in was it Preston then?
Yes, it was, yes.
Preston 561,000. Please listen to my ditty. Do you remember all those commercials? This was fantastic.
Yes, there you go. I do remember the number, but more than that, not much. But good on you, Michael.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do have a good night. 0800 218 2255 if you want to join us. It's very nearly 20 past midnight. We're here till 1 o'clock, so there's time left if you wish to join. I'll do Elliot.
Hi, Alan. I'd also like to say that I enjoyed that song earlier that you played, Mike Harding. I've never heard that one before, and it took me by surprise. The sort of thing you do, like, it sounded a little bit like Leonard Cohen or something like that he might have written. Something along those lines.
Well, it wasn't Cohen, it was Mike Harding. He did write it, but go on.
No, it's brilliant. No, I wanted to speak about parish councils. I don't really understand how local government, city councils and borough councils distribute their money to local councils, like parish councils, and also within towns and cities, how certain wards have them and others don't. it doesn't seem to follow a trend of population within that area or anything like that. It seems to be historical. I'm just wondering if you know anything more about that.
Parish councils are really not... I mean, they used to be quite important, but they're considerably less so now. They don't have the ability, as far as I understand it, they don't have the ability to raise funds independently. I mean,
apparently they do. Apparently they can raise their own taxes independently of the... Or apparently that's what I've read. How it works and how it's sort of transparent that is, I don't know. But
yeah, I don't. When you say they can raise taxes, they can, but I think the money has to be collected by the full council, if you like, the council proper.
Yeah.
I don't think they issue. I think they call it a precept on.
Yeah, precept. So they're allowed
tax.
to. Yeah, they're allowed to create their own or collect their own precepts.
Yeah. But I don't know that they have. I think it's very restrictive in what they can do. I mean, they
I'm just interested to know the framework by which it operates, really, in relation to the main council. Like, what framework is in place that dictates the expenditure, the funding, if you like. It doesn't seem to go off
the things
per head of.
They are limited in what they can spend money on. They can't just spend money because they feel like. They're limited. They have certain responsibilities in certain areas. Things like public toilets, clocks, that sort of thing. Litter bins, chairs and the like. The area, So it's.
But what I don't understand is if this thing has to go through the main council anyway, why don't they just from looking at it from the point of view of a city or a town or a borough council? Why wouldn't they just cut out the middleman and have a separate department within the main council that's responsible for doing all those things, rather than sort of subleasing the authority?
The devolvement of democracy, if you like. The problem is that not every area has got a formal parish council, as I understand it, and they don't have any. So where they don't, the local authority has the obligation because they're not able to devolve it to somebody else.
Right.
In some areas, the parish councils are quite active, but only insofar as the area of responsibility that they have. By the area, I don't mean geographic. I mean the actual the things they can do. It's really weird. But it is odd. It's historical. It's rather
historical,
like in the old days that the local authority, the town council, as it were, raised most of its own funds. But they don't anymore. Most of the money that is spent by the local council and indeed by the county council or metropolitan borough council, most of that money comes directly from central government. They raise only a small proportion of their spending is actually raised locally. And in the case of parish councils, it is even less so.
And the second thing I wanted to talk about tonight is something that a few callers earlier raised, the issue about housing and stuff like that, talking about St. Helens and stuff. Obviously we're in a situation at the moment where people are, the government tell us that we are in a housing crisis, or there's lots of people that need housing. And we've got this issue, obviously, with the immigration situation as well, housing them. And it just it cast my mind back to a few years ago, probably about maybe 7 or 8 years ago when Liverpool City Council were selling large portions of their inner city. I think it was like Kensington, or I can't remember what part of inner city Liverpool it was, for £1. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was in the sort of Echo and the local sort of Northwest News, where you could buy a house in Liverpool. It might have been Toxteth or something like that for £1. And those houses are, and there's more where that came from as well. That clearly, okay, they weren't like brilliant inside or anything, but why? I don't understand why houses like that can be left vacant for so long, whilst Greenbelt is being used for brand new ones. Why aren't the government incentivising and giving grants to developers to spend half the money on their own stock, if you like, their existing portfolio of stock, housing stock that they've got?
Well, the answer to that is it would cost the government, via local authorities, a tremendously large amount of money, and they don't want to spend that. Yes, more money. So it's cheaper to write off the property for £1 than it is to spend the 50,000 it might take to develop it.
I suppose maybe I've worded it wrong. I don't mean why don't the government pay to have houses built? I mean, whatever incentives are being given to private developers now, because I'm assuming there must be some, because not some of these houses are like incentivised first-time buyer mortgages and stuff. So the government's giving money to some of these developers to do what they're doing now. What I'm saying is, why don't they give money to develop?
I'm not altogether sure. I'm not altogether sure that the government is giving money to developers. I think it's rather the other way in terms of
there are buying schemes. There are buying schemes for first-time buyers, so where they have to.
And if you want to, if you're saying they're giving money to the builder because they're giving the person help with buying the property, I take that. Yes, I follow that logic, but the alternative might be that people can't afford to buy houses, which means they will then fall on the liability, if you like, of the local authority. They'll somehow have to house them, and so this is a way of assisting those people to find a home, which is one of the jobs governments perhaps are responsible for.
Yeah.
But they don't give money directly to builders very often. It's the other way round. When the builder says, I want to build 500 houses over there, the government says, or the local authority under the aegis of the government says, well, in that case, you'll have to build 100 affordable homes, as they're called. And then the builder says, yes, I'll do that. And then they start building, and then they think, oh, we can't afford it, so they stop doing it. But that's the process, really.
You see, personally, I'd like to see. There are certain city councils in the country that do still have and are still in the process of building local authority funded social housing, as opposed to the new type, which is the buy-to-let. Affordable. They call it affordable housing, which is you buy it off a third party. Basically, it's not. You don't pay your rent to your local council, but there are some councils still engaged in that method of doing things.
It's not easy for them to work out. Not easy for them to do. When the local authorities were required to sell off the council houses to sitting tenants at a massive discount, they were required to do it. Some resisted, some stubbornly said, we will not do it, but eventually they have to, because the government's in charge of the law of this land, and eventually they had to. And one of the things that they weren't allowed to do was to then use the money that they got either to assist people living in council houses, or indeed to build more council houses, because the government of the day didn't want council houses. Wanted rid of them. Thought we should be a property owning society.
I I think you raised the issue once before. I don't know whether it was in response to something I'd said or another caller, but you said that it wasn't. They weren't the councils to sell originally. Well, in other words, they were ours to sell.
Well, the problem with that is no, they're not the councils to sell. They are owned by the people, but the voice of the people and the action of the people is under our society the elected entity, and the elected entity is the people. Ridiculously, in some cases.
Ridiculous indeed. I'll leave it at that. Thanks very much.
There was a. Have a good night.
Oh, it's okay. Carry on.
No, it's all right. How do Kevin?
Hiya, hi Alan. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
That piece of music you played was absolutely fantastic.
Good.
And the descriptive of where he was flying over a bombing and stuff like that, it was wonderful. I really never heard of the guy before until tonight. And what I do like is your descriptive of when you sat with the three guys, one walked away, one came back, and it is a real anti-war song. Absolutely.
Very definitely so, yes.
Yeah, and I've listened to you for so long. Tonight was a moment I'm going, you know what, he's got it right tonight. And thank you.
My pleasure. Have a good night. How do Simon?
Hello, Alan. Just what lad said there. I've just heard mentioned, I'm not talking about this, but there was a programme on about anti-war. It was a cartoon in 70s. I think it was called Where the Wind Blows. That war.
Yeah.
Very poignant, very good. You'll remember it, I think. Yeah.
I do remember
it was very good, that. I want to talk about Michael Benting, because you've been talking about Call My Bluff tonight and all that. Very good show, that. And the Goons came on. Michael Benting used to be in Goons. Not a lot of people know that.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, a crazy old show. I never understood a word they were singing. Then
I don't think you were meant to, but never mind.
Well, I try to understand it, I'm poor enough to try to understand it. And he had potty time and all that, and, well, that was Michael Benting had it. But yeah, in the Goons, and it was fascinating. I didn't understand that neither. But they looked very earnest as they were doing it. And read the book with Michael Benting, and he was from a prominent family, very prominent family originally in Peru. Michael. So he seemed like a right nice fella to me. And he was sort of a scientist, but he didn't really go with what I said. There was one where this scientist, to an explanation, I forgot exactly what it was, for something. And then, it's a good way of looking at things. And then Michael Benting, and he was a scientist, he had his explanation for exactly the same thing. And then he checked both of them, and he said, well, I prefer my own. And I think that's a good way of looking at science, because you can look at science and say that all there is out there is rocks and no life. Which, when you watch, say, the sky at night, and they found a bit of dust from 6 billion years ago, and, well, you're supposed to get excited about it, but it never really rocks my boat out like that. I prefer the, what some lads that I hear on here say, there's aliens somewhere. And they're a bit like God, actually. I think they've been watching us all the time. Yeah, but Michael Benting's the main one, and he was in the Goons, and a lot of people have been talking about these old shows, and I just wanted to say that. He was in the Goons, and Bob's your uncle, really, Alan.
Michael Benting is an interesting man, as you know.
Yeah.
And he was an expert pistol shot.
Was it?
And yeah, in Hereford, it's got the headquarters of the Special Air Service, a place called Bradbury Lines. And in there they have what they call a kill house, which is a house that they use using live ammunition and practicing, like when they did the raid on the embassy, they will have practiced that over and over and over again in the kill house, so that they react properly. And Michael Bentine is recorded as the first man ever to fire a shot in the kill house in Bradbury Lines.
Oh my neck, I wouldn't have thought that, you know. It's so debonair, really, you know what I mean? But,
well, yeah, but there you are. So
very interesting, that, yeah.
Michael Bentine. Yeah. So he was involved in not the actual creation of the Special Air Service, but in the concept of a special unit, if you like, doing...
And what, they call it the Black what?
The what, sorry?
This place, the kill house, they call it the Black what?
The kill house. The kill house is just part of the camp where the SAS are based, and that's in Hereford, and it's called Bradbury Lines.
The Bradbury Lines. And he was first one to do a shot in the kill house. Oh,
yes, the first one to fire a shot, yeah.
No, that's great information, that going to Michael.
That's a quiz winner, if ever there was.
Yeah, he is, yeah. Yeah, it's cracking, that. Well, it was potty time, but I can't remember. It was an interesting fella, though, you know.
Yeah, very interested. In 1985, I know the date because it was an awards ceremony, and I won an award, regrettably, but anyway, in 1985...
Yeah.
He was the guest speaker at the Sony dinner. There used to be a big dinner for the Sony Awards, and he was the guest speaker. He did this whole routine about his pet. He had a pet bird that was the size of an eagle on his shoulder, and he did this whole routine with this bloody bird. And I thought it was a bit dull, but one of the other guests was Harold Wilson, former Prime Minister, and he was laughing like a drain, so he appealed to somebody.
Yeah.
There you are. So a Prime Minister, a soldier, and a comedian name-dropped. That's some kind of record.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yeah, sort of actor, and with all that, what you've just told me, I think it's like... He was subtle in the
quite the character.
Very well good, though.
Good on you. Have a good one. 0800 218 2255 to join us. It's 25 to midnight, so there's a bit of time. How do Sean?
Good evening, Alan. Thanks for letting me call you at this time. Thanks for letting me call you at this time of night. Thank you.
No problem. What would you like to talk about?
I want to talk about... You know hospitals, do you think they get enough medicine for patients when they're ill, or do you reckon they don't?
Sorry?
Do you reckon patients get enough medicine to keep them healthy when they're like they broke their arm or something?
Are you saying... I'm not quite sure what you're saying. You seem to, do correct me if I'm misquoting you, but you seem to be saying that hospitals don't give patients enough medication. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they don't always give them medication, not enough to ease the pain.
Well, sometimes you can't give enough to ease the pain.
No.
There is no painkiller that will alleviate every pain. It'll diminish it, but there are some painkillers that if you increase the dosage, the pain would stop, but that's because the patient is dead. Because painkillers are serious poisons, so you have to balance the amount of the amount of pain the patient can endure with the amount of poison that their body can endure.
So basically, when Lisa let me look after them babies, she injected poison into their bones to make them suffer because they're already ill and suffering. So she just made them suffer worse and made them die from injecting poison into their system. But because she was obviously she obviously wasn't evil at the time, and then she was evil because she killed all them babies. So she's an evil person.
It's hard to argue against. The word evil is not a particularly useful word, but clearly she wasn't behaving in a way that is acceptable by any means.
Well, and the family will never forgive her for what she'd done, ever.
I should think not. No.
Right, thanks for talking to me.
My pleasure, Sean. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. Getting just after 20 to 1. We're here till 1. If you want to join us, that's good. Pick up your phone and have a bash. You never know, you might like it. There's the Crusaders. They're enjoying a street light. Oh, don't look at me like that. Yeah. Newspapers this morning, Monday morning, for it is. The Eye says that the Tory big beasts are facing wipeout at the next election. As Doris opens up new splits, at least 5 cabinet members and other senior Tories are on course to lose their seats in the next general election. A BMG polling seems to suggest. There you go. Long time to go yet. A lot can happen. A week is a long time in politics, I think Alice Wilson said. Financial Times, China's sluggish economy will weigh on global trade. Western groups warn, and the tax offset on ULA's clean air levy is a shot in the arm for London's white van man. There you go. The Guardian, ultra-processed foods causing a tidal wave of harm, say experts. What are they talking about when they say ultra-processed? That's the thing. The Prime Minister putting progress on clean air at risk, says Khan, who of course is in charge of the ULIs. And Moscow confirms the death of Prigozhin, however you say it. And the Notting Hill Carnival, which more than 2 million people are expected to attend, got underway yesterday with the Children's Day Parade. So I think the Notting Hill Carnival takes place tomorrow in Notting Hill, but I could be wrong. Of course I could. And the Daily Mail front page, NHS trying to erase women. Health Secretary's anger at 77 trusts sign up to a rainbow badge scheme that marks down hospitals for using words like mother. Bloody hellfire. I've got nothing else to say. And the rehabilitation of Andrew continues, apparently. Yeah, who cares? No, me neither. 23 degrees Celsius, happy Monday, says the Daily Star, but not everywhere, of course. Braver man, the police must investigate every theft, and Labour will pay GPs more if patients can see a doctor of choice. And has William forgiven his disgraced uncle? And there is a photograph of his disgraced uncle on the front of the Daily Telegraph. And does it matter if he has? Who cares? Exactly. The Daily Mirror, Great British Food Scandal. Half the foods in our diet can lead to strokes and heart attacks, but people can't even buy fresh produce in many of the poorest areas. And the Times, electronic tagging plan to stop migrants fleeing. And the best pupils do better by avoiding grammars. That's grammar schools, not grammar as in the use of English. That's the Times. And finally, for this moment at least, the Daily Express, Tory infighting will gift Labour the keys to number 10. And also a suggestion that Andrew is back in the fold because he joins the Royals at Balmoral. So there you are. Doesn't matter how hard you bite, sometimes you get to come back, which I guess is kind of nice. Let's listen to The Cure. It says, Friday, I'm in love. Monday morning early. Who knows? Friday, I'm in love. Seems a little specific, doesn't it? I mean, I can get, I love Friday. Well, that's fine, I can do that. I love Friday, I understand that. But Friday, I'm in love. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, what about them? Why, I mean, isn't love a little more comprehensive than just one day a week? Weird. Never mind. It's not as if anybody cares, is it? Not I. If you want to join us, it's 10 to 1, so you've got 10 minutes, but some of that will be spent listening to The Temptations and My Girl. 0800.
Hello there. First time I've ever rang anything like this, but yeah, I mean, but it's in the stars, though. Yeah, it's in the stars. What I was going to say, do you believe in alien technology, or, you know?
When you say alien, what do you mean?
Yeah, not of this earth. Do you think spacecraft, aliens, do you believe that they exist? I'm gonna blow your mind, because it's true. It's true, but what is
true? What is true?
Aliens exist.
Okay.
The technology that we're producing now, a lot of it is just replicated alien technology.
Okay.
I think one of the most amazing things is, if I was to say one story that confirms that exists, I'd say this. There was a piece of metal, and it was found 50 metres above the land. However, when they found this, and this is absolutely, it's on the telly and this, that and the other, they found a very strange kind of, it wasn't like, it was obviously manufactured, it had been designed, but it was aluminium, and it also had magnesium in it, and the fact is, it was actually below mammoth that they found. Above it, it was about 30 feet down, more 30 metres, but below the line of where they did find woolly mammoth, bones, this, that and the other, How did that get there? It's absolutely impossible for that to happen. And that...
How so? Almost nothing is impossible, but go on.
Yeah, but I just struggle at the fact that, and I think we're nearer for the government to disclose these things. My dad's 90, and he was at the RAF, and I spoke to him about UFOs and this, that and the other. You know, I'm 56. I got the magazine, The Unexplained. Don't know if you ever remember it. But it was great. It was great. Once a month and that. But, Dad, do you believe in UFOs? No. He wouldn't even talk about the nuclear things, you know, that he was involved with.
I'm not really sure why we've gone to a sidebar of you telling me that your dad didn't believe any of the stuff you're now saying. I don't know how that...
News at 1 o'clock. This is Anna Cunningham. The Home Office has announced that police chiefs in England and Wales have agreed that their officers will pursue all reasonable lines of inquiry in an effort to solve more crimes. The government says it wants to make it clear there is no such thing as a minor crime, with a clampdown focusing on offences like shoplifting. Mark Easton reports.
Forces have come under political pressure to ensure officers follow up evidence from smart doorbells, dash cams and the internet to solve more lower-level crimes, including vandalism. Despite historically low crime levels, there's public frustration at falling detection rates. But police will point out that improved crime recording means their caseload is rising and more of the crimes being reported are complex offences to investigate, notably rape and abuse cases. Would it be reasonable to downgrade those to pursue more shoplifters, it may be asked?
Spain's Football Federation is due to hold an emergency meeting today to discuss a crisis which has engulfed the sport in the country. The federation's president, Luis Rubiales, has been suspended by FIFA because he kissed a Spanish player on the lips after the women's team won the World Cup. A man and a woman have died after they became trapped in their car in a flooded street in Liverpool. It's thought the vehicle was submerged under a bridge. The Scottish COVID-19 inquiry will hold its preliminary hearing today. It will look specifically at how the Scottish Government and other public agencies responded to the pandemic. Jamie McIver reports.
In Scotland, there were different lockdown rules and a whole range of distinct decisions were taken on the NHS, education and face masks. Today's preliminary hearing will set out how the Scottish inquiry, chaired by Lord Brailsford, will work. It's funded by the Scottish Government and designed to complement the UK COVID inquiry. The former First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, and her former Deputy, John Swinney, have already given evidence to the UK inquiry. It heard how the Scottish Government clashed with Downing Street over approaches to suppressing the virus.
New research suggests people are borrowing from family members to help them buy property in record numbers in the UK. Nearly 320,000 homes are expected to be purchased with financial support from relatives this year, which is almost half of all homes bought by those under the age of 55. The head of Legal & General's retail division, Bernie Hickman, says the total amount given by family members will be nearly 50% more than it was in 2020.
House prices have been growing at a much faster pace than wages have been going, and with the cost of living crisis and higher interest rates, it's become ever more important for families to support their loved ones. But obviously there's the negative flip side to that, in that it's becoming increasingly hard for people who don't have the support of families.